here. Anybody want to do an attunement? Yes, John? Okay. Okay, you're it. Thanks.
Holy mackerel.
Did you notice how still I was sitting? It just wasn't.
I know, I thought maybe my screen froze. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, settling in, taking a couple of nice deep breaths. And all of the smaller detail questions that we feel are so important, let them evaporate. It's kind of being aware of the fall of the year, the autumn of our lives. Beautiful colors as well as the settling in toward the stillness of the darkness of the winter. And with the change in season, just noticing the changes that occur every moment. And take a deep breath into that, knowing that nothing stays the same. And that unified resonance field has a flow. And if we open our hearts and open our beings to that flow, the magic will happen. So just noticing where the resistances are. And let that go along with the need to know, and let that flow into trusting the unknown. And let our hearts beat as one. For the good of the whole. And so be it.
Aho.
Aho, Matek Wyasam.
So let's do a check-in. Welcome back, Shelley. Just to hear your stories and how that was. And there's so much that's moving and shifting and changing in the field that let's just do a check-in here and see. I know we talked about last time pulling the agenda forward from last week and the things that are moving and shaking. Let's just take a breather here and check in personally. Who wants to start?
Well, I can just say it has finally calmed down a little bit. We've had 2 days of 50, 60 mile an hour gusts coming off the mountaintop through here. and it's blowing a lot of the leaves off. And that wind is always disturbing to me. It's agitating, but it's calmed down now. But so I'm calming down as well. Um, Back in the flow of things, working more than I want to on my little construction business, trying to hand it over to my son, but it's going well. And yeah, just in the flow. And the only thing I've mentioned before, I really want to talk about the mentoring steward orientation thing, which I don't think is working well. Maybe we can put that real briefly on the agenda. Besides that, I'm curious as to what shows up. I'm complete.
Well, I'm off mute, so I guess I'll check in. I am first have to say welcome back, Shelley. You look absolutely radiant, and I know it was quite a journey. So on behalf of the waters of the world and all the people to appreciate it, thank you. I appreciate you for all that you did. And Charlie was kind of reporting back a little bit at the Japamala every night. And he did say that the two of you were chanting to the waters, and that just really, really opened my heart. I was delighted about the peace chanting. And I have to say that my check-in does revolve around doing this every night, doing the chanting, the Japamala for peace. It is literally changing all of us. We can feel it. And we're going on the 19th day. And I'm just so grateful that it's being done, because this is just a time of chaos. And yet, when you're holding the peace, really steadfast in your being, the chaos kind of melts away. It's like, well, people are doing what they do. And when you don't get caught up in it, it just makes life so much more pleasant. And it's not that we're running away. It's not that I'm hiding under the sheets. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. And some of the conversation that came up in the Resonance Lounge calls today were really incredible about this being Indigenous Day, not, instead of Columbus Day being Indigenous Day. And I mean, we have Latino, we have the Alaskan Indigenous, we have African American, and Jew, a Jewish perspective of how people have been suppressed and not allowed to be themselves. And how today, if we can shift that consciousness and realize how important it is for everybody to feel valued and open. It was just incredible. Noreen was crying. Well, I said her name, but here it is. But Noreen was actually in tears from the story that she was telling. And I just want to share this, because any one of you could have been on it, and she was openly speaking. That her parents were raised where the Indigenous were not allowed to be who they were, and they were shuttled off to the schools that the American government said they needed to learn by. And her parents were so scared of letting their Indigenous heritage come forward. And when Noreen was a little girl, she always wanted to dance and wear the costumes, and her mother would almost punish her for it, was just horrified. Until recently, and Noreen's a grown woman, has she now hearing her mother speak in her native language and is coming forward with. So I think all that we're doing for Indigenous recognition is so empowering, not only for them, but for all of us, since we're all Indigenous, but people who've gone through their own form of Holocaust. It was just beautiful, and it just showed how people are appreciating the connection field and how much it means to them to have a safe place that they can come and share whatever they share. And you know, it could be tears, it could be fears, it could be joy, and it's all safe and wonderful and loving. And I just wanted to report that back in. So yay. Yay for all of us. Thank you. Ahe matakuyasan. I think that's how a woman says it. And I want to put this on the agenda today so we don't forget, is that we talk about Dance of the Forever Winds. The book. Time is coming. I keep seeing the leaves changing, and it's time. The Dance of the Forever Winds is going to come, and I want to launch the little ebook. Okay, I'm done.
I can go. Yes, I'm resonating with everything that everybody's saying. I'm doing well. Yes, the wind here on the East Coast as well, John. And I'm pretty Vata myself, so staying in balance. So I'm not super agitated by the wind. Is a consistent challenge of mine. But feeling good, feeling clear, happy to be here. Linda and Shelley, thank you for chanting to peace and to our waters and to our earth, and holding that vibration down for all of us. And I don't really have anything to add to the agenda. I'm just here to help keep it going and document it, and maybe add a few things here and there. But that's it. Just feeling pretty calm. That's all. Thanks.
I actually want to go last. So, because I feel like I'm just coming in gently and I just want to hear from everyone. So I'm actually choosing that today, if that's okay.
Hey, Glenn, welcome. I don't know if you're in the car or you're home, but we're just doing our check-in, and it's you and me and Shelley left, so. No.
Well, aloha. Can you hear me okay? So I just had a little eye doctor put a small eyelash out of my eye that was giving me a little discomfort. So I took care of that little thing. And I'm sitting in the parking lot at Costco here on our beautiful island of Kauai. And I'm really excited about how the universe is just unfolding things. And so, well, I've met additional support folks for Ohana, had more encouragement about, just showing up and doing good work in the world, for the whole. And I'm just noticing how the universe just keeps on supporting me and us, and it's like it just keeps on coming. And it's wow, even there are lulls, and maybe it comes, maybe in waves, it kind of it goes up, it goes down, it goes up. I mean, it's like, and I'm just noticing that in maybe ways that I haven't noticed before. So I'm not, I'm really happy. So I think I'm complete for my check-in.
I love that you're happy and you're just the happy kind of guy, Glenn. I appreciate the happy. So thank you for being the happy. Happy's good. So I've been kind of in my joy too with a couple of things that for my check-in a week and a half ago in the healing field, Linda's Bill said, Julie, and I don't even remember how he challenged it, but it was like, Julie, what's your joy? Like, what's your joy? Talk about happy. And at that point, it was like Linda and I and Bill were having a conversation. And as soon as Linda then said, why did you want to do the healing field to begin with? And as soon as she said that, it was like this whole world of joy and passion and just purpose set in, this evolutionary purpose. It was like I was in my evolutionary purpose in that moment. And it was like so much happening. And as soon as we did, there was this shift in the healing field and in what was mine to do and what could I bring into the healing field or offering in the connection field. And from that place, all this new growth, all this new excitement, all these new pieces are coming in, and Linda and I are in the process of reforming the healing field from that. And so that happened a week and a half ago. And then last Monday on the call, we were right at that point. If you guys remember, we were right at that point of talking about the fundraiser, talking about moving forward and the organizational structure and right where we're at. And as soon as it was, well, why are we doing this? I went back into evolutionary purpose again. It was like I was in that passion of, oh my gosh. And talking about, we were all in that place of, we need 1,000 of these mentors on the planet. We need 1 million. We need 100 million. We need and it was like when we were in that place of conscious evolution and that evolutionary purpose, coming with that whole world view and looking at whole systems health. And so I've been on fire. And since that point, last Monday, I saw this shift in, we've been sitting there with what's mentoring stewards, what are the benefits of mentoring stewards and where we're at and where we go forward. And all of a sudden it was just like bringing the global transition team in and those levels and those benefits. And so much has been moving as I've been working on that all week that I look forward to share sometime soon. All of that's falling in place like the tides. I was thinking not waves, Glenn, I was thinking of tide. The tide comes in and the tide goes out, and the tide comes in and the tide goes out, and learning how to ride those seasons of the tide is a really important piece of understanding that it's coming with the field going whoosh. And so it's felt like high tide, like, oh, here's the water. Look at that. It's yummy. And so I've just been continuing to work inside Kajabi and with the website and loving those pieces and how they're fitting together and seeing so much new growth. It's exciting to watch the new growth, the distributed leadership that's happening. And yeah, so anyway, that's been my week, working on pulling that together for looking forward to the fundraiser, looking forward to what that looks like. I met with Jude Curvan again this week, talking about the global transition team and how that looks and how do we create the super organism that can hold this piece. And that's exciting and feels really good. And yeah, just listening and learning to ride the tide like the seasons. So thanks for that metaphor there, Ohana Man. That felt good, of really feeling it being, the waves come in, but there's this tide thing that happens with the cycles. So with that, I think I'm complete for now.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be back and just feel into your energies, and being back in as after this sabbatical and being renewed and renourished, and yeah, just feeling those inner tides moving. So yeah, for me, personal check-in, it's been a phenomenal couple of weeks, and it's true, Linda finally got to me the Japamala. Instead of doing it every night because of the timing, I did it every morning in the midst of whatever, all the stuff I was doing. And it was very powerful. And I've not just that, but through this walk and being available to experience walking a river and understanding all of its tides and convergences and rippling and dams, and I feel like I've come into greater intimacy with understanding life and myself and others, and yeah, it's been really potent. So so as far as that I realized, and I've never thought about myself as a peacekeeper, but I realized at the end of all of this that was really the bottom line and the essence of what really matters is that, yes, balance within ourselves for sure, but it's understanding myself as a peace walker, as really walking for that state of being for everyone and for the whole. And that has been really powerful. And what the river taught me, I guess the bottom line is really how to move with focused commitment, which I can't say that I ever, being a multitasker in so many different ways, and having the connection field like push me to every limit I've ever experienced of multitasking. I felt like I was brought home to that home frequency of what I would just land as focused commitment, what that really is and what that means, and how to do it, and walking in resonance in a sort of expanded way of what that field really is and how it speaks. And so I'll leave it at that with that, lots of probably curiosity points. And I'm here now in the White Mountains, and I feel like it's funny because I got here and I was thinking, oh, this is really isolated. I don't know if I want to be here. I might want to be somewhere where I have a little bit of contact, but I realized this morning this is the perfect place to just be in total silence with everything that's moved and have this like unbelievable vista in front of me, and to really write now, use everything that I've experienced and start writing, because I didn't do any writing other than journaling while I was there. Most of it was really unplugging and being disentangled from everything. Like towards the end, explain why later on, and would like to add a little bit of something that I want to add to the agenda. Won't speak about it right now, but yeah. So and what was really beautiful in terms of what was being shared, the journey began with a native ceremony, and it's really interesting, this being Indigenous Day or Original Nations Days, it's also being called, is what I began the journey with was that has not been brought forth for a long time, just recently through certain tribes. Ooh, that's the first time I got that. Ooh. Okay. And it was a dance for all people. That's what it was called. And it was focused on bringing back the Abenaki language. It was being brought back, excuse me, it was being brought back by the Abenaki people who had lost their language out of many, many tribes all over the country. They're one that hasn't had any access to their language. It was so eradicated. So yeah, really feeling that weaving of the hoop of many hoops inside myself, and feeling incredibly free, and looking at where I feel that I'm being called to play. And I'm grateful to everyone. And I've already spoken to a lot of people on the Connection Field team, that, you know, that everyone stepped up in a way that was just magnificent and beautiful, and seeing the collaboration, seeing what's going on, and still having a few suggestions for things at the same time. Just it's been very powerful, and see the joy that's happening with those people that are, you know, the mentoring stewards. And I think, yeah, I think just lastly, one of the most powerful moments was, and I think this is a lot about coherence and convergence, was on this river run. At one point, this particular river just doesn't go directly out into the ocean. And what it did and what it does and why it's so important, it's a river that meets up with another very large river. And I love the name. It's called Merry Meeting Bay in terms of the aloha, laughter, Merry Meeting Bay. And these rivers meet up and create a phenomenal confluence and convergence, which pushes the water very quickly through a channel out to the ocean. And I'm still taking that in, of what it was like to be sitting there. I mean, I actually feel really teary to be sitting there at that convergence. I felt like it was a moment in time. You know, we have these moments in time where there is no time, and you're being shown something that kind of like what it really could be look like, what it really is going, what is the truth of that energy? If we're looking at the field and its energy and the water and the light and how it all works together, and sitting there on those rocks. And it was one of the most amazing moments. And all of a sudden this eagle started screeching, and Charlie didn't even hear him. And I just got this moment in time of like, okay, this is when rivers converge and they're in confluence and they're in resonance, this most magnificent thing happens, and that energy becomes amplified, and the currents move together, and that ocean becomes that ocean of mercy, that ocean of compassion, that ocean of magnificent everything. It's just was such a powerful experience to really see and feel that. And maybe that's part of what I'm bringing back to this field, is the reciprocity of really hearing the field show itself in gratitude for what can happen when things are in that place. So with that, I'm complete. Thank you.
So that, oh, Andrea, did you want to speak?
I can go after you. I just wanted to say, Shelley, I'm making notes. So you said you had an agenda item, so I just wanted to add that to the list.
If you would just give me a few minutes,
Mhm.
I'll explain what the two items are, and I think it ties in. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay, great. Because at some point after Julie speaks, I hope there's time. I would like to just follow up on the agenda items. That's all. I'm complete, Julie, for now.
Glenn.
And I'd like just, you know, I should give you guys just a short report on Ohana whenever it fits in, you know, 5 minutes.
Well, I'm kind of torn of where to begin or how to move this forward. We talked about continuing to pull the threads from our last meeting forward, and there's so much moving, and Shelley's back, and so much has happened while Shelley's gone, for Shelley and for the Connection Field. So what feels emergent? What would be the best use of this moving forward? I know we talked about the pulling those threads and the note that's in the Trello board that keeps us moving forward, and yet we're all in that convergence space, in a brand new space and time here. So yeah, what are you all feeling?
Hey, Julie, maybe this might help. So I have been watching, and I've been very aware of what's going on, and seeing I've kept, though I haven't come into the connection field, except for one thing, and I actually got off. I'm pretty aware of what's been changing and moving very beautifully. Just want to let you know that, so that you don't have to feel like you have to. I can listen and catch in. And the only thing, Andrea, is, and maybe now I just got Tim to finally, like 1 minute before we met, to set up everything. And so I'm hoping that I can now get into the Trello board, but I've been having trouble getting into the Trello board. So I might just connect with you around that.
Help me understand why you have trouble getting in the Trello board, because that has nothing to do with Tim. It's just
Well, number one is I couldn't get any of those, a lot of emails, because there was a whole big mishmash with my email. And also I had a terrible internet at where I was staying for quite a long time. So it might have been any of the above. That's why I said I would just check back in. And I know it doesn't have anything to do with it, but I couldn't get any of the links. I would click on the links that Andrew gave me, and it wasn't letting me in, and I couldn't, for some reason, couldn't get in. So I don't necessarily think it does, but just in general.
I also, just so you know, some weeks back, you can look under Attention Executive Leadership Council from my email. I sent I kind of worked out some of the glitches with Julie's help around Trello, and gave some specific directions and why there was confusion and how to remedy that confusion so everybody could be on the same page. So you might even want to look back for that email. It'll say something about like Attention Executive Leadership Council Trello, like getting into Trello or setting up Trello.
So as whole systems, thinking whole systems and thinking about this distributed leadership model, Shelley, you've been watching from afar, but Linda and Andrea and the whole, like, there's so much self-organizing happening perhaps between Linda and Andrea, and maybe we could weave forward what's been happening in the connection field and where we're going with the connection field, and the morning ceremony shifting with the soul fire for the earth ceremony, morning ceremony. So this probably would be a good time to just kind of process some of that, how it's been held, and the new self-directed leadership that's emerging, and yeah, and see how we hold that moving forward.
Well, I can speak a little bit to that, being on the connection field team calls. And I have to say, wow, Julie Down just jumped all over making a video to help people know how to do Facebook Live. So she's done training. I mean, I haven't watched them, but it seems like the connection field team that watched it, they learned a lot, like in one afternoon. She put things together. One of the things that came up in the call, was the 9th the last call? Friday? No, yeah. Right, that was just this last Friday. Is about hosting and a tech person. And what is it? And who needs to be a mentoring steward? You know, like the questions that keep coming up are, I want clear protocol on how to become a mentoring steward and what does that mean? And then that came back to Bill's question of, why would I spend $25 a month? You know, what am I getting for that? So I think we're trying to be able to come up with, here, this is what it is. And maybe that orientation call that John's talking about, you know, we can shift that or change it. Oh, Tuesdays isn't going to work for you. I was thinking move the healing field, move that away. But those have been the main questions. It's like, who can host? What do we host? And what's the difference between the residents, you know, holding the residents lounge and hosting, and who runs the tech for that? Just little things. And this may have already been cleared up. I'm just bringing up what I have notes of from last Friday. And I have a, you know, the big point of, how do I become a mentoring steward? And we say, well, you just pay your dues, but we haven't said that directly. And we haven't also said, this is what you get. Besides just a real good feeling. Okay, everybody has a good feeling already when they come into the connection field. So I think that's part of going back to what's being built with the global transition and the education wing of Good of the Whole, which I'm happy about. The question came up about daily guides. And is that really working? So far, I don't know if it is. Thursdays, Oriana watches the whole field. And Friday, Ia has been taking the place for Jess Amos while she's been out about the grief circle, and she seems to really like that. But I don't think there's one person in management. I just kind of am the liaison, or I have been for the last couple of weeks, between the connection field team and Good of the Whole to bring back to us some of the questions that they have so that we can put it together. And it seems like everybody's really coming together. They're just stepping forward and doing what's theirs to do. The morning fire team, I have a list, because I didn't know, because I don't go to the morning fire, but it's Amani, Julie Down, Jerry, Sue, Claudia, Jess, Martin, Christy, Tony, Danelle, and Noreen. Those are the people they say are morning fire team. So I don't know, maybe they have their own, you know, group. And the tech people have been Christy, Martin, Julie Down, Amani, and Jess. So if that helps anybody, if that helps you, Andrea, if you have something different, that's my report from the connection field team.
Awesome. Can I go?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll just add to that. Yeah, I think that it's been really interesting to see the connection field team really self-organize and distribute leadership among themselves. I do think these are important questions, and I also think kind of sussing out connection field management kind of questions. Definitely hold on to those notes. I think that I created a connection field management team board. I think they can be addressed more fully there, rather than necessarily in this 1 week meeting that we have the whole executive leadership council together, because there are many things good of the whole that needs to be covered during this meeting. So thank you. And if you're still not able to get into that Trello, I would like to start working on that board. So just let me know, Linda, and everybody, so I can support you.
The Trello for connection field?
Connection field management.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a place where we can really, you know, as teams, the people who are actually working on the connection field can come together and collaborate collectively on that. So thank you. for writing all that down. I saw you writing stuff down on Friday, so I didn't. I'm like, Linda's writing it down. I see her. Yeah, it's been really fascinating to see how people are self-organizing and really asking us what they need so they can actually distribute the leadership. Like, for example, Jerry came to me, for us to effectively distribute the leadership of technology, this is what we need. And I was able to go to Julie and say, this is what they need. And we decided to write a procedure, which hasn't been released yet. I sent everybody a copy of that procedure because this is distributive leadership and collaboration. To add on to that, or just say, good job, or let's do this, or, tweak it as it needs to be tweaked. So yeah, things are moving a lot faster because they're able to distribute the leadership among themselves and ask us to support that. So now it seems like, as far as the team meeting, it's us supporting their co-management of aspects of the connection field, which is really beautiful to see, because my understanding is it is a project that is for the community, by the community. So it's nice to see that happening. Also, I don't know if people are getting my emails, but I sent out I'm working on creating a Excel document with some of the stats from our questionnaires, but I sent everybody the personal feedback about the questionnaires on the connection field, and mentoring stewards, and feedback and suggestions. And we don't have to make this up in our head because we have the community telling us through these questionnaires. So I encourage, if you haven't already, to please, 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 please look at those questionnaires and look at the people's responses, because they're going to help us answer these questions and become, the really strong organism and organization of good of the whole. And I think a lot of the questions about mentoring stewardship, about connection field team, about connection field management, community management, are really addressed in those questionnaires, in the responses to those questionnaires. And a lot of what I saw was very much along the lines of distributive leadership and people wanting to help but not knowing how. And I think that's starting to be sussed out. I think the community is helping us identify what needs to be done, which is really beautiful to see, because I've gotten some personal phone calls saying, this is what we need so we can serve. Can you make that happen? So that's what I have to say for now. I'm complete.
I'd like to come in at this point, if that's all right. This is one of the agenda items that I want to actually bring up. And so I ask you to breathe, because I'm going to describe an experience, and I'm going to describe something that I feel is really important. And so let's see where to begin. So I was on that Friday call, and that was really the first entry back in, other than the fire that morning. And I've been watching the fire, and I know all about what's going on, and I've talked to Amani. And so on the fire, and I made a very clear commitment, which was I wasn't going to say anything. I was just simply going to listen. And on the fire, I simply listened, just to see, to feel, to be, to experience. And then I came into the connection field team meeting, and I was driving with Charlie, and I'm really glad he was there to actually witness what happened, that it isn't just coming from my mouth or my heart, for that matter. So in that field team meeting, I was just really quiet, and I was listening until one point. And at one point, Linda was asking a lot of questions about the daily guides. And there was such confusion, and no one knew what they were talking about. Linda didn't know. And so I was just listening to what was going on, one person, this person, that person, and actually I want to backtrack one thing before this. And I just took a breath and I came in and I said, hey, would you guys like some help? Would you like some help with this? Or asked Linda, would you like some help with this? And immediately, without even, Andrea, actually, you cut me off and said no, like with a major no. And that was really interesting. I just put myself on mute and took a breath, and Charlie's looking at me going like, what? And then prior to that, I want to speak to the resonance. Well, actually, sorry, because there was something that happened prior to that. So prior to that, the resonance happened. Imani did the resonance. And this is what the resonance was like. Hey, come on, everyone, move. Let's wiggle. And then let's do this, hey. And not that it was what it was, but the main point from what I experienced beyond that was that it didn't set the field. It didn't create the coherence needed for that field team meeting. And so what happened during that was a lot of, people kind of, yes, they're all stepping up and it's amazing and it's incredible. And what happened after Imani set that resonance is she immediately attacked Oriana with good intentions, possibly. I just talked to her, Andrea. We just had a long talk. And she actually was in tears saying, I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I know it wasn't good. So it's not like I don't know that it's actually true. And she attacked Oriana about the way she was doing something. And it was a jump. And it was just an interesting experience for me to just come in, and why I came in at that point and experience that. And then there was one other point where there was a lot of confusion about what was going on and and I was holding the answer. It was really simple. And I think that's when you said no, Andrea. So for me, what the universe gave me the experience of was distributive leadership is amazing. I see what's going on. It's incredible. I don't want to come back in, and I have no intentions of, Imani called me, so the team, apparently they're meeting tonight. And they asked for me to come in, and I hadn't really planned on it, but I will. But distributive leadership without people understanding resonance is distributive leadership with a lot of people showing up with amazing, good intentions, incredible. I see what's being created here. It's amazing since I've been gone. And I'm sure part of that is because I left, then everyone could start to feel comfortable and show up, which is great. And a little additional piece I want to add to this is, so today I stayed in the Resonance Lounge, again, just being pretty quiet, not like I don't have any intentions of like jumping back into what was, because what is evolving is amazing. And here is another example of what I'm talking about. Claudia came in, offered to host because Michelle couldn't show up, is an amazing being, is incredible, even does resonance. But when it came to, she came in after Dawn Pett, and we all know Dawn Pett, and she directed her energy and her it became a conversation, and directed her being triggered to Dawn Pett. And then, and holding as host, where she hasn't deepened into understanding how to hold the group in group resonance. She couldn't hold it. And then Dawn Pett came back at her. And I think, Linda, you had come in, I don't know if you were listening or, so I just took the time to kind of just gently explain what the Resonance Lounge was all about. It wasn't a place to try and attack each other about what actioning needed to happen, because she felt very triggered because of Indigenous Day. So again, my point is not that, and I had a conversation with Imani, and that was really interesting. And finally things kind of cleared up because she was very triggered about not being, she wasn't ready to take over the connection field team. She agreed to be part of the run the fire ceremony. And so she was taken off guard, and she doesn't have the skills to do that. And she said it herself. She said, this is not my forte. This is my weak point. I don't want to do that. Evolution of good of the whole, but without.
Just cut off for a second. Can you just back up about 30 seconds? You were gone for 30 seconds and we didn't hear you.
Okay, it's funny that that's just happening on this call. So all I'm saying is that really distributive leadership, everyone showing up, is incredible. But if they don't have the understanding of how to hold resonance and what we've been, and the only reason I'm saying this really strongly is because the reason the connection field could even happen, the reason, is that good of the whole, is the understanding and the capacity that we've learned from all of our experiences. I'm speaking more to Julie and to Linda, maybe Glenn, of how to hold that resonance. So it's a message to me. It's a message to what the universe wants me to, what is my purpose, my evolutionary purpose. I love that. But I just want to bring it in because it's really important. I talked to Mani about, I'm forgetting his name. The guy who plays the guitar. Help me.
Tony
He lives
Davis.
in Denver.
Tony Davis.
Huh?
Tony Davis.
Yeah, Tony, right, yeah. So they were gonna have Tony host, and I'm like, okay, well, here's an example. Tony's amazing, beautiful person, but he just came into good of the whole. He's a lover. He's showing up. He's coming on all these calls. He wants to be part of the team. I've heard him. And people got upset about the hosting thing, but the question I would put to this group is, how do you create the procedures and the protocol? And we've had some different documents about how people actually have the experience of understanding how to hold group resonance, because that morning fire, as another example, is it sets that frequency for the entire day. And it's amazing. It's an incredible happy club. It's amazing. And Jerry holds Jerry can pick up that in a minute. Certain people can pick it up. And there are people that don't know how to create that yet. So I'm not saying anything's horribly wrong or I'm perfect or anything like that. I'm just inviting, from being an outsider, and watching what's happening, to the experience I had, and just like, I don't even feel like I'm the same person when I left, that this is really an important piece that people understand and that we bring forward in terms of distributive leadership. And I haven't read a lot of books. I don't know that much about it, but I do know that this is an important piece for good of the whole. So with that, thank you for listening, and I'm complete.
Can I just respond? I was nodding my head because I did cut you off with a no. I'm fully aware that I did. It wasn't intended to be malice. And it actually wasn't about connection field hosts. Linda had asked me a question about my progress on a certain aspect of getting documents and procedures together. And I was confused by her question. And then when you came in wanting to help, I was like, no, I really want Linda to rephrase her question. It wasn't about Shelley can't help, but it had nothing to do with you. It was a question that she had for me that I wasn't understanding. So I'm sorry if it felt abrupt to you, but I wanted Linda to rephrase it so I could actually understand it, rather than having another person come in and try to navigate what that question was. So I'm sorry if you took offense. I also do want to say, and I don't want this to be a back and forth, but Amani has really stepped up to leading those connection field team meetings. I don't know if she wants to do it all the time, but according to her, reporting back to me, she's really enjoyed it. And she's really enjoyed taking that leadership and holding these team meetings. So if that's a different thing, then that's reality, then that needs to be worked out. When I did not see her attacking Oriana, I felt her saying, hey, this is where as a team we're falling short. And Oriana took that very personally. It was not intended towards Oriana. She never once said Oriana's name. So I just want to like make that clear. It was not an attack on Oriana. She was like, hey, team, this is where we're not showing up. And Jerry's like, yeah, that's me not showing up. So I just want to like be clear with that because I think that's really important. And I also just want to add, has anybody read any of the community responses to the connection field? Just raise of hands that I sent out last week. Okay. So that's going to share a lot of what people are feeling because people are feeling, not everybody, people are really loving the connection field and I think it's doing a great service, but there are people out there that feel that they're not doing resonance right, or they're doing something wrong, or the way that they are in their hearts is wrong and they can't move forward in the connection field till they get it right. So I just want to like, I get what you're saying about like, we all need to hold resonance and hold that for each other and hold that through for everybody involved, but also like, what is right resonance? If somebody's in their heart and coming forward from this place of authenticity, isn't that resonance? So I just want to kind of add that because we do have people that may not have been in the field or gone through trainings or know the language of resonance. A lot of people said in a few comments in the connection field responses where this languaging is actually creating separation rather than unity and it doesn't feel good. Can you be open to how I carry myself in resonance? So I just want to kind of put that out there because I really think the community can really help guide us. I think it's best practices too, to like keep digging into the community and having them like show us the way. So that's all I want to say. Sorry, Shelley, if it felt abrupt. I just really wanted clarity from the person who was asking the question. And I'm complete.
So I'm not going to respond to the personal stuff, but what has come out of my journey is really understanding that this piece that's been worked on from the Resonance Council, well, from myself, firstly, from the Resonance Council for many, many years, and then working with Henry and then working with John, that the documents that I have and the understanding of what is just that very question, it's very perfect that you said that, needs to get really clear because it is not the same thing as what you just described. It has much more to do with understanding the field and quantum physics, and it has and much more to do with being in resonance. Is not about just being in your heart or what it has to do with the being in alliance, or in a deeper intuition. That's what I like to, John, intuition with the field and what that feels like, because you can be in your heart and have all different opinions and you're never gonna, that's why you get this thing. But when it rolls over and it has to do with the intelligence of the field, understanding what is the field and what resonance has to do with that, then there will be no question. So I don't blame it on anybody that they're having those feelings. I think Claudia got it really, like Claudia was just like, I get it. Now I get it. It's, but it is an experience for sure. So I'm going to work on that. And, but I also don't think that, or I not also don't think, I feel that we can help everyone raise the frequency, because that's what it really is. Raise the frequency so they can really understand how to be in a greater communion within the community because of that. So I'm going to work on that. That's definitely my evolutionary purpose. And you know, the main thing is when you see people cutting other people off like that, then that's a real indication that it's not working, you know. And so more on that later, but thank you. And I'm complete.
So thanks, both of you. I just wanted to bring in that before Shelley left, I think it was for 2 Fridays, Amani was going to facilitate the first connection field team, and I was going to facilitate the second one. And she loved it doing the first one and asked me if she could facilitate the second one. And I said, sure, you know, that's fine. So if it seemed like in that second one, when you popped in, Shell, if it seemed a little chaotic, it wasn't chaotic. It was more like joyful popcorn going on, where there was conversation, because everything about the connection field they get as far as resonance from hour to hour to hour. They're feeling it, they're in it, they understand it. And it came up in the connection field team, and I think it was the first one that maybe you weren't there. In that team call, it's like, this is a business call, we have to get things done. So, you know, to let someone talk and then pause for a long time, it just felt like we're excited, we have a lot to get done, can we have conversations here? And it didn't mean that they were totally out of resonance, but it wasn't like being in the heart resonant call. It was totally different, like a business call where they were trying to, you know, get things in order. And as I'm hearing you speak, Shell, it's like, I've heard you talk about teaching resonance 101. Do it. The time is right. Get the course, do the course and let people come to that course. Because then if it's a specific and you can teach how you are feeling resonance, it's different from when we're in the call and we're practicing it, the heart resonance call, we're practicing, but they already have a foundation because they've gone to your class. I mean, that's kind of how I'm seeing it. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think the timing feels right for that.
Okay, I just want to add one last thing. So part of when we talked about, and Julie knows about this, and so, you know, it never really went that far, but we had talked about a protocol for mentoring stewards. And in that protocol, it was having a certain experience, an experiential amount of time, let's say in the Resonance Lounge, and I'm not saying it's correct or, you know, anything like that, or we can just throw it out the window, or it doesn't matter to me. But basically it was having a certain amount of time so people could actually acclimate to some of the languaging, acclimate to what that felt like, to, you know, the reason people were coming in and feeling so teary and crying and feeling home was because of that field that has been created. And at that time, there was way more hours, obviously, in the Resonance Lounge. That's why all those people are there, because they're having that experience. And ultimately, that is what heart resonance, or resonance, whatever you want to call it, does. It creates a field of safety. And we all know that because we've been doing it for a long time. And I'm not saying team meetings can't be, you know, but I also know I've been in a lot of team meetings, and even this one, where if we were doing what was happening in that connection field team, we wouldn't be getting anywhere. You know, it was a lot. And I think part of it, and it was the third time, it wasn't the second, but yeah, I'm just, you know, look, I'm just reflecting back, and I hear what you're saying. And I think resonance creates respect. And that's what I wasn't feeling, that there was a lot of, at least in the beginning of that call, you know, and I didn't feel like, if I was someone coming in, you know, that respect was was there, that listening field, because any call, any distributive leadership call with resonance, it has that high level of spaciousness between people communicating. So call it popcorn or whatever you want, but yeah, I'm
Let me pop in on this just for a moment. I don't know if resonance can be taught, exactly taught. It's a direct experience of a unit of the unified field, and that the communication, that's why I want to go into a business or a city government or a group and see how the communication and the goals and everything else are met through the resonant field. And you have to have the direct experience of the resonant field, I think, before that can happen. So I agree that people can be in their hearts, they can have the best intentions in the world. The word that kept coming to me is reverence. And I don't know why, but there's a certain reverence that goes along with resonance. Not that you can't have fun. I mean, we laugh sometimes in the resonant field, I mean, no doubt. But, and I am not, and I've said this before, like on the Monday or the morning fire call and so forth. Even though Jose was out of line without question, when he dropped into and brought that field through, it really was that, and it dropped everybody else into. And then the reflections that came off of that were very clear and very much in resonance. I popped in a couple of times in the morning call, and it was very joyous and very happy, but there wasn't a lot of resonance happening. And trust me, I didn't stay very long, but what I saw was people really coming together, but I don't know if there was resonance. And it happened to me this morning. It's happened to me the last 2 weeks with Don Peck, because he has a line. He's dealing in a certain frequency that is absolutely brilliant, smart man, but it's not in resonance. It's just not. And so I think, and I hold that Tuesday morning mentoring Steward orientation, and it's not happening there. It's not working. I mean, people come in, and the ones that get resonance come in and we move into resonance, but the ones that don't get it aren't coming in. They're just not there. So I'm voting for dropping that hour because of that. So anyway, my point was, if I go out as a global representative, I don't want to do that using an old paradigm communications. It's good in the moment, it can feel good, but the results are not going to be the same as if the information and the wisdom coming in the resonant unified field is what's directing the process. It's a fine line, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but boy, it's important. It's very important. So I think at the top of the list is, if we're going to have, and I love the idea of distributive leadership, but our distributive leaders have to really not have, there's no have to. Best case scenario is they really get that the resonance is guiding the process. Not a religion, not a philosophy, not a belief system. And that's where, for me anyway, the resonance piece is different. Because when my heart's open to that, there's a clarity that happens there that doesn't happen otherwise. And you know, I've done a lot of work in the field, but I didn't have this piece, and it was marginally effective. But we're not an old paradigm organism or organization. So however we bring that resonance through for the leaders, whether it's the connection field leaders or the global transition specialist, I think that piece is very essential. And I know we all feel it, we all want it, we all experience it. And when it happens, you know, the tears are tears of joy, and the music, poetry, everything's wonderful. But the moment that anything is, if we're experiencing information that's not coming from there, but information from our trainings and so forth without resonance, it's not quite the same. I don't have the answer. I don't think I've done such a good job in the Tuesday morning orientation, just because it, you know, I can create resonance, but as far as transferring that over, the people that really don't have it, that need it, don't show up. And no new people are coming in. We have no new people coming in wanting to be mentoring stewards that have ever come to the orientation. So I'll just throw that out.
I think this is a good topic that needs some exploration. And just as a side note for that Tuesday morning thing is that we got the influx of people in with Brother Phil bringing all those people in, and then everybody was new and they wanted to be a part of it. But to talk about resonance, I think, is an important piece, because we can create resonance here, and we can create resonance here, and we could create resonance here. So what does holding resonance and attuning to the unified field, a lot of times it's said as the unified field of resonance instead of the unified field of consciousness or the unified field of designing intelligence. And so, like, what just, as I'm listening to this, it's like literally there's collective consciousness and collective intelligence. There's the unified field of intelligence, the unified field of consciousness, and attuning to the people in resonance is different than attuning to the field and understanding that direct connection with that designing intelligence of the universe coming in. And so if we're in our thoughts and our beliefs and we're like trying to come together on a committee and work on our co-managing or co-leading, that doesn't mean that we're in resonance, but we could be in resonance at that level of consciousness, at that level of coming together. And Jerry shared this visual last week, and I'll come back to the fire in a second, of the, I can never say that, the Chladni plate or whatever, where it's the cymatics, where literally they put the sand on the plate and then they play a frequency and literally it creates chaos. The sand is all messy, and then it literally would go into its formation at different frequencies. It's going into the formation at different frequencies. The fascinating part about the sand and the cymatics is that literally there are certain frequencies that are slower, that the sand reorganizes more slowly at that frequency and comes together eventually, or not. There's even frequencies where it won't come together. And then there are frequencies that when they play that frequency, it's like, boom, we are together and we're in formation, and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. So understanding frequency and resonance is an important part of this leadership model that we're talking about. But we also need to understand that designing intelligence of the universe and how that's different than collective intelligence or collective consciousness. And literally, we're watching collective consciousness play itself out on the planet right now. There are those who are here in this group and they believe these things, and they believe these things to be true, and they're acting accordingly. And then there's those people over here that believe these things that are totally opposite, and they're acting accordingly. And that in the collective consciousness is creating a field. So these are important pieces. And and I just want to bring in this idea of the fire, because the fire wasn't always resonant with Jose. And there's giggling and there's noises and there's, you know, and there's celebration and there's fun and there's joy and there's, and those things happened at the fire too. And that fire was always that place where people could just come into that celebratory early morning, greet the sun, greet the fire. And yes, there was the reverence that happened, calling in the directions. There's reverence, there's holiness, and then there's playfulness. And so I think that the most important piece is just listening to this, that is really, I think, of vital importance moving forward, is what is the community calling forward? What is that? What literally is the emergence of all this new growth and creativity, and how do we hold that and nurture it and cultivate it and allow it to be in its fullest expression of what it wants to be coming forward? And the piece of, and I'll bring in some later, I don't know that it's important today, but the benefits of mentoring stewards and moving forward and what all that looks like, I have a lot of ideas about that. But the piece of the leadership, John, that you're bringing in is like, when we come into an organization and when we're teaching that, I think that there are some basic principles that we could bring forward. And it's not just, the resonance isn't the only piece that we bring, really. It's really of wholeness, that unitive wholeness, that undivided wholeness of understanding wholeness that we're bringing in. We're bringing in whole systems health. We're bringing in a whole worldview. We're bringing in the distributed leadership models that work in superorganisms. And with superorganisms, when they're creating resonance, it's not that they're in this reverent place. It's that they're all in the same frequency, so that the communication happens without words a lot of the times, and within action, that they are in that same frequency, creating resonance in the frequency that they're communicating, so that they get it and they're moving as one unit, as one organism, one species, ants, bees, mycelial network, the fungus, so that's important. And then I think that the other piece, so it has a whole worldview and it has this distributed leadership model. And then the other piece is that evolutionary purpose that I bring in, is that literally those 3 principles, but those 5 or whatever I said already, I think are really core pieces to that we can assist on the planet with during this transition. That we can create resonance at a lot of different frequencies. I mean, you pluck a string on a guitar and there's different notes that you could play that create different resonance. And looking at those, that Chladni plate, whatever it's called. So, and all of those pieces are integral. This is what I'm hearing in this moment, that they're integral. It's like without understanding wholeness from that unitive wholeness, that undivided wholeness, that inherent wholeness, it doesn't matter if we have resonance. You know, so it's like these other pieces, all of that works together for the good of the whole. All of that works together for whole systems health now. And so I'm used to this question, and I think it's a good one for us to muse in. So I'm used to this question of the language, the practice, the best practice of resonance. What is that? Is I'm used to being in places where people don't understand resonance. I get that one. So how do we hold, without that direct experience that you speak of, John, which is really critical? And what we're talking about is when you have that direct experience of that wholeness and that home frequency that creates greater resonance, then we get it. And we like, oh, I want to serve the good of the whole, of course. Oh, we have to have whole systems health. So that direct experience is really important. How do we hold everyone inclusively, no matter what stage or state of consciousness they're in? How do we hold the whole in resonance, even when individual members within that greater community aren't in resonance? And I see you wanting to jump in, John, so go for it.
Well, I just love what you said. I love what you said that settled it for me. Just like I always say, you know, you can have all kinds of love, takes many different forms, but the designing intelligence from the singularity, if we don't have reverence for that, then what's happened on our planet right now is you get this. Okay? But if we have reverence in whatever form the resonance takes for that designing intelligence, and people, if you don't get the designing intelligence, you're not really going to have the resonance that is for the good of the whole. You're going to have resonance that is opinions, beliefs, and disconnected energy. So that for me really helps a lot. Boy, I mean, personally, to the best of my ability, when I have direct experience of the designing intelligence, wowie zowie, whammo, game over. Go for it, Ohana. Get off of mute there. I see you keep raising your finger.
Yeah, well, I love this conversation. I think that we're in the place where we're beginning to scale from, maybe we're at 10 and we're going toward 100. And as we scale, we encounter greater forms or greater expression of diversity, because every individual beginning to come to collaborate with us and be connected with us comes with their own, with all of their own experience, and they're everyone unique. And our opportunity is to, I think, just is recognizing that as we are doing, and beginning to use the field to sort out how is it we support that expansion of understanding of resonance, knowing that as we have this intent to continue to broaden our scale infinitely, that this issue is right in our face, perfect timing. That we're small now. It's okay to make tons of mistakes, and try different approaches and strategies and begin to create the foundation for this course or series of courses or expressions of what does it mean to have resonant leadership and what is the reverence and how is it we express that and put that together and support those who are making a conscious choice to begin to bring that into their lives in a new way. And I think I'm a perfect example of that with Ohana Legacy. That I've got 25 people now on this team, and do they know much about this conversation we're having? Most of them don't. Some do, and they're gradually learning over time as we continually clarify what our intent is and what it means individually to think from the good of the whole. That's a new concept for many of us. And we're all just going to continuously get better at it, as I see it. And is it going to happen overnight? No. Although maybe. And so we're riding the tiger, man. And I think it's a lot of fun, frankly. And it's like, okay, what else have we got to do? So here we are. So I'm complete.
Thank you, Ohana. That was great.
That's why we love you, Glenn. Steady, Glenn. I also wanted to say about whatever that vibrational machine is that I don't know what it's called either. I don't think it's the Schumann resonance. It's not what it is, but I know what you're talking about. And that each different frequency will make a different design, like a different snowflake. So it can be whatever it is, it's coming into coherence, but each one of them can be different. So I think the word here is harmony. If there's going to be coherence and there's many different voices and different ways of understanding their experience of resonance, is that at least it's in harmony. And there's not a, something that jars it or a rock thrown in the middle of the design that's coming together for whatever that visual is worth for you.
I like that, Linda. I just want to thank you for this conversation, and you all kind of clarified what I was trying to say. Yes, maybe being in your heart is not the same as resonance, and there is resonance to that. So if somebody's coming, like I'm thinking operationally here, because that's my job with you all, is to think operationally. So if there's somebody coming forward that might not understand resonance yet, but is coming forward and is showing up and saying, my heart's open to help, do we say, no, we don't want your help until you understand resonance? Or do we say, thank you and grow together? I think that's ultimately my question, because I'm seeing this thing where we can't take them up, we can't utilize them until they understand resonance. We're all human here. Not one of us is in resonance 24/7. If you are, I bow down to you, but we're not. We're human and it fluctuates. So I just want to, as I'm reading through people's responses and I'm listening to the community, there's this desire to be there, and there's this desire to show up, and there's this desire to support, and there's also this kind of pushback of them feeling as though from leadership that they're not ready to help. And I just want to address that, because I think that can be detrimental to the organization and to distributed leadership. So thank you all for having this conversation, because everything's frequency. There's not just one. And we're all just growing and learning. And I think in the chaos is when a lot of great things happen, is when the sand's all kind of reorganizing itself to then settle into whatever pattern it's going to be based on that frequency. There's magic there, and it's not something to be feared, but something to be curious about. So with that, I'm complete. Thank you.
I just got the visual of those two rivers that Shelley saw coming together and like stirring up, and then the power of that moving into the ocean. And usually when there's stirring, if it's a waterfall and the water's stirring, then there's this calm afterwards. So it's good for us to recognize when we're in the stirring part and when things are converging and our ideas are coming together, but knowing that we're being, actually it's the field that's pushing us in its designing intelligence towards that greater ocean, towards the greater field. So I just to bring full circle to the visions that Shelley gave us today, and how real that is for, you know, how well we can always learn from nature, but that's really the experience that's going on. So that's how I'm feeling. Things are coming together and being pushed into the ocean with a big field. I'm trusting the process.
I think that's why I loved the name. I mean, how poignant that the name was Merry Meeting Bay. So that all these different rivers converging, you know, creating that greater wholeness. And I think part of it is that, you know, truthfully, as the connection field opened, and it was sort of like a dam that had been clogged, like opened so fast, you know, with so much, and those documents weren't there, and you know, that's being created now, and all those people showing up, and you know, there was a small, you know, it's like that small group of people, and it was, you know, I just feel like just really trusting the divine intelligence for how things opened, and that, you know, the way that it showed up, you know, those people weren't ready earlier, you know, a month ago. They weren't, you know, people weren't raising their hands to all of a sudden. What happened was, to me, it was that designing intelligence, the cluster, I don't know what it's specifically called in quantum physics, but there is all of a sudden those cells cluster. And that's what happened. They were clustering and loving each other. And, you know, once that Jose thing was moved out of the way and people felt safe again, all of a sudden, and through that, actually, even through that experience, what ended up happening was they became intimately bonded with each other because of the pain, actually, that was happening within the community. They bonded together, and then through that is almost like this wave of grace or this wave of understanding, like everybody wanted to come back in. But you notice, like even a week before I left, I mean, people were, you know, Jess was not coming back in, and all these other people were not coming back in unless it was recreated to be that safe space. And honestly, that's what resonance in relationship to the divining, I keep saying divining, I think it's funny, divine intelligence just does. It knows what is for the highest good. And I think that's what we're attuning to when we're attuning to something, and when we're calling it resonance. It's our understanding. We know that it knows better than us what is the highest good of the whole. And that creates the magic. And that's the expression and the experience that people, that direct experience, that many of them have had enough of that experience that they want this more than anything. They now want to show up. And I love, Julie, what you were saying, because it's how do we cultivate that, you know, how do we create that field? And then it's not just the 6, now it's the 14 that got brought together. But if those other things hadn't happened, you know, it created that effect. So anyway, thank you. And I think it's a beautiful call.
You know, there's an interesting piece of quantum physics. Things go along, and then there's a thing that in quantum physics they call the strange attractor. And something pops in that's called a strange attractor, and everything mobilizes around that into the new formation. So in some way, even though it was very disturbing and painful, Jose was kind of like a strange attractor. And as that energy field popped in, it opened up a whole nother field of unification around in a new form. And we're going through that all the time. That's part of the divine intelligence. I love that. Divine intelligence. I don't know why I never thought of that before. Thanks, Julie. Because that is then the resonance come just like we were talking, or Julie, you were talking before about different strings on the guitar create different forms, is because that attracts that form, each one does, and each one of us do. And that's why I think when we get to it, whether it's mentoring stewards or global transition specialists, or right now, I'm going to look deeper into myself and say, what are my gifts and talents that I can put together in the best form I can in order to bring through that divine intelligence for the good of the whole. And it's going to be different than you and you and you and you and you, but it's the best that I can do, and to really work on that piece and to do it in resonance with the divine intelligence. Thanks.
I love divine intelligence, but to be clear, I was writing it down as Julie was saying it, and I think she called it designing intelligence.
Yeah, I know.
I call it the divine design.
I call it
So-
both. Yeah.
I like it is the designing intelligence. Yeah, you're right.
The designing intelligence is the divine intelligence. It's the same thing. Yeah.
It's the divine design of all things.
So that was a lot. And now we have 15, 20 minutes. And yeah, how to move forward with this beautiful connection field team and all of their self-organizing and distributed leadership is an important piece that I know Andrea's working really hard on protocols and procedures and policies so that everything has its place. Like we have our best practice. We know how to move from here to here because it's all right there. So as we continue that piece and moving forward, I just want to give some space if we've talked about the Mentoring Stewards call not working, John, and wanting to do that. Linda wanted to talk about the Dance of Forever Wins. Glenn wanted to give a Ohana Legacy Foundation update. So we have 20 minutes here and we've opened this conversation about resonance, and I think that's an important piece. And I will be bringing in those principles, I think, because I think once you're in, like, we're holding that, we get so many other things of what are those. So where do we want to go? Do we want to address those three other things on the agenda, or do we want to finish kind of holding this and teasing out any clearer direction? What are you guys feeling?
Well, let me just say, as far as the mentoring steward orientation, it feels like that should come from the connection field team to me. Because Andrea, you were saying that a lot of people have questions about hosting and what that's about, and so it almost feels like that should be given to that.
And that was Linda, I think, Linda was saying, how do you become a mentoring steward? What do you do?
Yeah.
Linda, you were bringing that in. How do you feel about that?
Well, those are just some of the questions from the connection field team that were coming up. Like Andrea had said, I think they're ready to have someone, one of us, talk to those who have these questions. Now, John, it could be any one of us, but to have that protocol in front of us so that we can tell them this is the way in, so to speak. And I know that I often am saying to people, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. We're working on it. And I want to move beyond we're working on it to actually be able to say, you've been patient, now here's your answer. So that's my frustration, is not really having a handle on how to tell them, well, what do I do to be a mentoring steward, and how can I host, and do we have the technology people in place, and who has access to, the Zoom room? Because I don't want everybody having access to the Zoom room. It's something which I explained, Good of the Whole is paying for that, and we can't give it to everyone. But is there a protocol? I guess I'm, pointing to Andrea for that. So there's just some meat that has to go on the bones. And once we have that, and we're all on the same page and we all have it, then whoever asks any one of us that question will be able to do it. I thought that's what the orientation was supposed to do. And that's nothing against you, John. It's just you didn't have the forms in front of you. And I think, thank goodness, that's why Andrea is working as hard as she is, so that we have that structure, so we can actually answer those questions.
Right. I just want to say, nobody came to the orientation other than the key people that are already mentoring stewards that don't need it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, is it, and I was saying before, maybe, if there are, maybe once a month we have people that really want to know, to have a group process that really lines it out, because it's certainly, nobody's showing up to get that information on Tuesday morning at the orientation.
So when people come to the Wednesday mentoring stewards call, are they all mentoring stewards? Or do they just pop in because there's the call? And what makes someone a mentoring steward? Some of them are on trade. Some of them have paid money. I'm not even clear on that.
I think the bottom line is, if you're not clear and there's not that clarity, I think part of it is just that in terms of it ties very much to the fundraising as well, because I think it's people just we haven't defined the benefits. We haven't defined the journey. We haven't defined, we had nothing, and then we had thoughts, and then we have some documents that aren't complete. I think this is probably the number one, and Julia probably already knows this, it's the number one piece of what are the benefits, what is the journey, why are they becoming, just like Bill asked, why are they paying that money? So this is what hasn't been set, bottom line, and maybe Andrea, you're doing this, but it's more than policies and procedures, it's the journey of a mentoring steward. And that's why those things cannot get answered at this point, because we as the leadership team have not focused and landed it. Not that we haven't been working or you haven't been working, but we haven't landed it. And the other thing I just want to drop in that hasn't been addressed, I don't believe, unless you did it while I was away, is there are many mentoring stewards, probably equal amount to who's paying, to who isn't paying, and what their trades actually are. And so they are in confusion because, and it's not their fault, they just said, I want to be a mentoring steward, and have been coming on the calls, and it just hasn't been defined. And that's all, so the question is, where does that focus happen? How does it happen? And how do we listen to the field in residence so that the designing intelligence to go, okay, what is it? And I think we know it. It's just a matter of getting it down, at least starting. And that's where Julie and I started with that 1 month. It evolved into a 1 month process of becoming, of being a mentoring steward, growing in the resident field, being part of beginning to host. It wasn't a have to, but it was like then hosting the residence lounge and then being able to offer their special offering, which was part of the benefit of becoming a mentoring steward, that not anybody can just come in. Right now and that was what I was trying to say, it's a little bit of a free-for-all, loving free-for-all, that anybody can host whenever they want. They can just show up because they want to, and that's not going to work. There's something really beautiful about that, and I would call it a portal. It is a portal to becoming, and we all got it. A lot of us got it because we worked with Barbara Marx Hubbard, and because we spent the 8 years afterward understanding the inherent resident leadership protocol, because we were having that direct experience. It was set up and we were inside of that. So, and not everybody got it, but most people did. And now we have to bring it down home. We have to make it and articulate and clear. And on that note, I want to just drop in one thing, which the other thing that I've been really noticing, and I would like everyone to go look at what is written for the morning ceremony. Because when you start putting earth, little e, capital ARTTH, which is very artsy and kind of beautiful, you're going to actually create it like people who are more of a mainstream are going to look at that and go like, what? There's some languaging in that just actually we've spent a lot of years trying to help so that people, anyone can come in and feel comfortable. And I just want to just drop that into to go take a look at that. And I think even Soulfire number 4 for the earth is fine, but earth and spelled that way. And then also the other thing that was highlighted when I took a look at it was world, spelled WE/RLD. And it's cute, but we spent a lot of time helping to clarify some of this stuff and allowing people to come in. And I know people that I would invite and they would take one look at that and go like, what? It's not just something that we want that to elevate their consciousness, but it's a very small group of people that, kind of would feel comfortable with that. So just on that note, it reminded me of that. So I'm complete. Thanks.
Ohana.
I might offer, in hearing, Shelley's comments and John's as well, is that it seems like, as we have with the Ohana Legacy Foundation, with the connection field, we need one executive, one somebody, one of us that is the leader of the connection field in a way, and facilitates and makes those kind of choices and decisions around the marketing of it, the way it's presented to the public, and all of that. And so, as opposed to being sort of managed by a committee. And so, and of course, you could have advisory committees as I do in the Ohana, but really the buck stops with me. And just to have that clarity, I'm complete.
I think that's an interesting comment because it is a community project now. So what is that? And Linda was acting as a liaison when Shelley left. So how do we empower the community to step forward and to move into that distributed leadership model? I think that's an important piece. And perhaps we need to like literally formalize more research and teach more on what is distributed leadership models and what works, how do they work, and yeah, I'm just sitting in the question of that. Glenn?
You have
That's
rep-
good. I'm sort of reminded, the ants have a queen. I don't know who leads the termite crowd. I'm reading that book, Teaming. I'm still reading it. It's a great book, guys, to be thinking about how we do all this. But there is the bees have a queen bee. There is a structure of sorts. And so maybe we empower the community to select one of them as the queen or sort of leader until they're not. I don't know. Just but I think it's good for us to contemplate, how do we set those marketing policies, languaging policies. I mean, the more we distribute that and we make it diverse, then the more variation that we're going to achieve. And that doesn't seem to be filling our needs at this point in our organism evolution. That's all.
I'd like to speak because I understand where you're coming from, Shelley. Like Amani definitely has a way of that she expresses herself. I think you all have to get clear, is this a program of Good of the Whole that is designed and facilitated by Good of the Whole, or is it a community project? And decide from there, because if it is a community project, we can hold the community to share a resonance, but how much can you delegate what they do or do not do creatively? And these are just questions. I'm not saying this is how it should be done. These are all questions. How do we empower the community to be leaders without stifling their creativity? And just a reminder, like the morning fire might not be for everyone, because there's people out there that want to be in the connection field and heart resonance language makes them feel disconnected. And they're just like, I don't get the languaging, so like, I think that's just an important point to consider. Maybe if they're totally turned off by it, they won't go to that programming, or maybe they'll be like, oh, that's a fun play with words. Let me see what she's doing and what she means. But I think the ultimate question is, do we want to control, do we want it to be a community project, and what level of control does the connection field, does Good of the Whole want in what is brought forward by the community? If they're spelling a word differently than it's phonetically spelt, but they're in their heart and holding resonance, is it okay? Is it not okay? I mean, these are just interesting questions. So I encourage these questions to keep being asked. And I don't have the answer for them.
I just want to say something that I feel, first of all, when I left, I did ask one thing, and that was not to go and changing everything in the connection field when I was gone, because I wanted that opportunity to come back and, just like Julie took 2 weeks off, or John took 2 weeks off, so as far as the connection field being entirely a community project, all of a sudden doesn't really feel that, doesn't resonate with me, like, or hasn't even been spoken about, and I get where it's going. I love it. It's not like that at all. And it's not about control. It's about, it's like, I don't know. I keep thinking, I don't know why I keep hearing Mozart. I don't know why, but it's like someone wanting to, learn Mozart, or how to play like Mozart. It takes them, they might understand the dynamics in the beginning. They might only be able to do this. And then that teacher or that leader holds a space for them and teaches them how, what a harmonic actually is, how to make a chord. And then they have this capacity at one point where they can just start playing and do whatever, whatever it is. But at the same time, like, I know Linda and Glenn, I mean, I can remember the very first retreat that Julie and I held, and we just held the consciousness of Good of the Whole. We held the resonance, and they were going, what the hell, what what's resonance? What? We don't get it. We don't do it, you know. And even until the second year, it was the same thing. Like nobody, and finally it started to pop and they started to have that direct experience of the designing intelligence, and something shifted. And it's the only reason they're here today. Because in the beginning, it was just Julie and I holding it and holding it and holding it. And it's okay that people don't understand it yet. And it's up to us to make it clear. But the question to me is, I get, you know, and I need to definitely read more and learn more. And Julie, I think it would be a great thing to add, you know, start having an hour of understanding distributive leadership. And, you know, you're not just going to give a piano, one of those fantastic, beautiful $1 million pianos to a kid, to the kids, you know, who are just coming in, who are just tasting it, and they're feeling their exuberance. It's beautiful. It's incredible. And at least Julie, and maybe Julie and I need to have more of a conversation, or maybe we all need to have more of a conversation. But it's like, you know, we have watched Sign, we have watched all these big organizations, and they don't understand resonance. And yes, are they accomplishing a lot? Are they, you know, but there is so much noise. And we've always held, you know, maybe it's changing. And you know, you can speak to me privately, Julia, you know, but to me, it's not just to give it away to the kids, because if the kids don't understand, and I know that this is our role, how to create a clear, what is a mentoring steward, how to create clear pieces about the resonance. But otherwise, personally, I don't really want to be part of it, because I know what can happen. And I think John was describing it. There is a magic that happens when we have the direct experience. And I think that's what's happening. And part of, you know, I in talking to Amani today, you know, it's like we've only been doing this for 7 days. And she was even upset about someone bringing a new idea in. And I was just trying to help her just relax, open, listen, you know. But you know, I don't think a community project means just you're just letting it run rampant and wild. And if they don't understand resonance, then we're back to square one, which before Good of the Whole was ever conceived. So again, I think this is more conversation, and you know, I need to understand more and to listen more. And I'm now like 100% available in a much different way, you know, without a lot of, I mean, I was having a really hard time mentally, physically, spiritually. I was having a really hard time. But I'm asking us as a leadership council, you know, that does know how to hold this frequency, a particular frequency. There are many frequency, and I taught cymatics. I taught it for years. You know, yeah, there's all this different frequencies, but this particular, why we call it the home frequency, is because there is an alchemical thing that happens when you experience the direct experience of the designing intelligence. And that creates the most magnificent river. And it's less where we have to do and make the effort. There's something magical that happens. And so I don't know where it goes from here, you know, but I just want to, you know, really get down on my knees and say, please take, you know, we need to take the time to clarify, to card, you know, a weaver to card this out so that they can have greater clarity. And I get it's taking time, but, you know, it's not, it's not that I have an irritation about a community project, you know, and at the same time, it is a program within, at least for me, before I left, you know, it is a program within Good of the Whole that we are holding for people to have a certain experience. And yes, we want distributive leadership without question, but we want it in a way that creates a magnificent flow for people being in service for the good of the whole. And you wouldn't give your kids, you know, the car keys right away. You know, it's just like, so I don't know how it works from this point on, but there feels like there's something really important that's coming out in this meeting. And love you all, and thank you for listening.
There's a lot right here.
Yeah.
Yes, Linda.
I think the kids are growing up fast. You know, they've been in for 7 months. Has it been 7 months? Most of them. 5, 6, 7 months, almost every day, almost all day long. So I don't know who's actually not feeling the resonance. Maybe someone new who's been in for a few weeks, but for the most part, pretty much trusting those who've been showing up all the time. And I don't know, it's delicate, you know. We want to have distributed leadership, and yet, and it's still that way, you know. I think what happened in the fire was just the joy. It just happened. It just bubbled up and happened. Nobody could stop it because the door opened up. It's like, okay, we need to fill this space. Jose's not there anymore. I don't know who runs it. You know, that's not my thing. So I'm sure that it will work out, but I just kind of want to leave this meeting with the feeling that I trust all of these different personalities and that they're bringing what they bring. And I think keeping all of us, myself included, on what's mine to do, you know, what is my compass of joy, and trust that when we say yes to the universe, it's going to bring us all those opportunities so we can express that thing, whatever is mine to do. And maybe we should bring that up to the people who are participating in the connection field and keep asking them so that they can hone in. Yeah, so thank you for today. It's just beautiful. A lot of things have to come out. It's a good
I
start.
think that's a great summary, Linda. I really do. It's like I'm sitting here looking at 6 boxes. What expertise comes from that box? Resonance. What comes from that box? Organization. And yet we don't really have to have the end result available to us if we all are trusting in that designing intelligence, the way we bring it through, and know that it's going to mesh at some point. I just trust that. The other great thing I just want to say is, earlier today, I was thinking about, okay, I want to go out into a city government and provide this. I go, well, provide what? I mean, you know, like, oh my God. I love you all.
I just want to wind this back down to the mentoring stewardship call, because I think if you just take out the word orientation, because it wasn't in there for a really long time. It was just mentoring, stewardship, living in service for the good of the whole. And people were coming. I mean, maybe something happened over the past couple of weeks. I don't know. But it was always people, it was really a developing conversation just about this. You know, yes, it maybe needs a little more information for them to where to go and what they're going to get and how to get it. But I always thought that was, I mean, before I left, people were coming in, and I think that what you're describing to me is that there are no new people coming in.
Right. That's the deal.
And that's something that was not for here, but I was going to talk to Amani about something that's happening inside the fire, inside of the morning soul fire ceremony that would actually be keeping new people from really coming in. There's just something that's going on there. So anyway.
Plus the big thing is I don't want to do it anymore.
There it is. That's what's going on.
And I had to go. But I think there's still some pieces that are sitting here, obviously, that need to be kind of moved forward. And here we are out of time, and Linda jumped off. And I think that there is the analogy of holding the field while someone learns how to play the chords is an important piece. And like, I would not want to do anything to discourage Amani. And there are a few things she does that I don't resonate with, using the term in a whole new way. I don't in the other definition of resonance. So there are things she does that I don't resonate with. And then there are some fundamental pieces, like when she says, she's doing her quantum physics that we're just ones and zeros, or ones and zeros, us ones and zeros. And she talks about ones and zeros. Okay, I get quantum physics and I understand the field and technology and how we're programming and we're ones and zeros. And so it's like, that's her expression. But she'll also do the cute thing of PLUs, PLUs, PLUs. And it's her thing, but it's creating separation. So maybe gently she needs to hear that when you say PLU, people like us, you're creating separation, so just gently. So like, how do we co-mentor one another? That's the whole purpose of our mentoring stewards, is that we're mentoring one another in this field, and that we are creating this greater field. So I can go play on those keys on the piano and play around and make noise until I understand and hear and feel that direct experience that you're talking about. Is all of a sudden the piano does something and I go, whoa, what just happened? Like this whole body orgasm with a chord that happened on the piano key. So that's what we're talking about, without squashing the enthusiasm and the curiosity and the playfulness and the volunteerism and because that's the strange attractor. Is we've become the strange attractor. So I'm going to just close us, where I know we have more, and darn it, I wanted to talk about Linda's book. But when Glenn brings up the idea of scaling to the infinite here, is that this is what we're dealing with here. So what are those fundamental pieces? What are the entry level pieces? What are those principles? And I'm making it really, really simple, you guys. I'm making it really simple. 3 primary principles, 3 primary practices, boom, very, very, very simple, so that we all can replicate it and it can be prolific as we move forward. So John, when you say, what is it that I want to take to the government? It's on paper here, like, oh, boom, 3 of these, 3 of that, boom, 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 here it is. This is what we're taking into the governments. This is how easy and simple it can be, until you feel it, until you get the direct experience. You could start to get it here, or you could start to get it here, or you could feel it in your gut, or you could feel it in your relationships. You're going to get it in a lot of different ways until it's clunks into place. I remember like thinking about a gear. It's like when the gear clunks into place, then the cogs can turn, because that gear is in place. And so that's what we're dealing with here. So I'm looking forward to sharing those principles and those different pieces to simplify all this. But we have to be able to hold the field while everyone's learning what that strange attractor is and how to come into their own place and not just be people like us. Like here we are saying people like us, resonant field, and we're doing that. We're going, we get it. And how do we just say it's for the collective, it's for the good of the whole, it's for everyone. And to allow the babies, I allow my grandkids, they come in and they start pounding on the piano keys, and we're like, Grandma, come play. And it's like, okay, let's sit on the bench and play more. And then we play some chords and they like start paying attention. And so thank you, Mozart, for being with us today. And
Well
see
said.
where it goes. Yeah, it's 10 after. So like bringing that into close, this is a scaling problem. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn, for bringing that in for me. That was the one thing. Everybody's firing off pieces that they're getting. And that's the piece that I'm getting, is literally that, what does this look like holographically so it can be scaled? And that's what we're bringing into the most simplest form right now. So any last words for the good of the whole before we close? Glenn's off.
Sounds good to me. I love what you're talking about. And I'll just leave this last tidbit as we close. The universe so wills, we may be building the first Tesla eco community for the planet. So I'll just leave you with that.
Yeah, baby.
Now you're opening a new conversation and I want to get into that. So yeah, that's a terrible tease to leave us with. But here we are. And yeah. Thanks, Glenn.
Eat your heart out. We're having fun.
Yes. And yeah. Any last words from anyone else? John's off mute. Shelley, Andrea.
Well, I'm just inspired again. It's just like, every moment is, all these old cliche, every moment's a new opportunity. I think we're sitting in a major opportunity right now. I think we're standing in a major opportunity. That's what I want to say.
I'll just say that thank you for this conversation. This actually did address some of the questions that were on our agenda from our last meeting. Really clarifying what Good of the Whole is offering, so we can kind of quantify it a bit more. But I did make that document and I sent it to all of you. So, take a look at it, add to it, because these are the questions that we have to keep coming back to. Any organism has to keep coming back to really get clear. And I'm not trying, Shelley, I'm not trying to change anything or do anything. I'm just trying to help you all get clearer and create procedures so it can be done in a way that you're not having to talk to people on the phone, because that's unsustainable, unless you have to, and sometimes we have to, but I'm really trying to create those procedures so you don't have to, and your time is yours to write and to sing and to play. So please take a look at what the community has to say. I think there's going to be some pieces there that we can really just guide us, and we'll add to the notes for the meeting on that document, and take a look at it, because I want us to keep following that thread. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
And I will share that bringing the mentoring stewards into the global transition team brought a bunch of structure to the mentoring stewards. I'll share that document to see if that's the direction we want to go, with lots of benefits, really lots of benefits. And then all we have to do is produce content that match that. So we're good. So with that, shall we wrap a bow on this thing? Did you all hear my dog snoring? Did you hear her? Oh my gosh, it was so loud. All righty.
Blessings, everybody.
Blessings.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Much love, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, see ya.
Bye.